Good morning. Today we are going to read Emmett's Scary Sleepover. And you should have already read this once or twice this week with your partner. Again, Emmett's Scary Sleepover by Lara Anderson. Remember, if it is by her, she wrote the story. It then says illustrated by Eric Deschamps. He illustrated it, so he drew the pictures. Knock, knock, Grant answered the door. It was Emmett, his best friend. Emmett lived in the apartment upstairs. I'm so glad you're sleeping over, Grant said. The boys ran into Grant's bedroom. Emmett opened his backpack and took out a hat with long flaps. Emmett, why did you bring a hat? Asked Grant. It's my lucky hat, said Emmett. Emmett's parents were out of town, and he had never slept over at Grant's apartment when they weren't upstairs. So Emmett was a little worried. Where's Scruffy? Asked Emmett. Scruffy was Grant's funny little dog. Let's go find him, said Grant. The boys ran down the hall and into the living room. Scruffy, yelled Grant. Mom made that popcorn for Emmett and me. I guess Scruffy loves popcorn too, laughed Emmett. He lifted Scruffy up in the air. Movie time, said Grant. Which movie do you want to watch? How about this one, Emmett said. He picked a movie called A Cabin in the Woods. Grant started the movie. On the TV, 4 teenagers sat around a campfire. They were holding flashlights and laughing. This movie looks good, Emmett said. But just then, spooky music began to play. Grant, do you think this is a scary movie? Asked Emmett. No, Grant said. My big brother watches this movie all the time. Besides, I'm not afraid of scary movies. Are you? No, said Emmett. In the movie, the 4 teenagers got up from the campfire and walked into an old cabin. A dark shadow darted across the back wall of the cabin. The spooky music got louder. Emmett squeezed his eyes shut. He covered his ears. When Emmett opened his eyes again, he looked at Grant. Grant's eyes were wide open. Emmett peeked at the screen again. Now the dark shadow was following the teenagers around the cabin. The spooky music got louder and louder. Emmett's heart was beating so loud he thought that Grant might hear it. You keep watching, Grant, Emmett said. I need my hat. Emmett raced down the hall to Grant's room. Scruffy ran after him. Emmett put on his lucky hat. He looked out the bedroom window. The streetlights were on. People were walking outside. And even though his parents weren't home, his apartment was right upstairs. Everything was going to be fine. Don't worry, he whispered to Scruffy. That movie is just make-believe. Emmett walked slowly back to the living room. He pulled his hat down over his eyes. Scruffy jumped on his lap and snuggled. Suddenly, something in the movie went boom! Emmett screamed. Scruffy yelped. Popcorn flew in the air. Now the teenagers were running in the woods. The loud, scary music came on again. Then the end popped up on the screen. The movie was over. Wait, Grant shouted. We don't know what happened to the kids. Emmett didn't care what happened to the kids. He was so happy the movie was over. There must be another movie about them, Grant said. Here it is. He picked up Return to a Cabin in the Woods. Emmett looked at all the movies on the table. Let's watch Pink Pigs in Space, he said. It looks funny. Don't you want to find out what happens in the cabin? Asked Grant. No, yelled Emmett. He took a deep breath. I think one scary movie is enough for poor Scruffy. Grant smiled. He knew that the movie had scared Emmett more than it scared Scruffy. And so, without saying another word, Grant put on Pink Pigs in Space. All right, so that was a cute little book. We've been reading some scary books for Halloween. Okay, go ahead and get out this sheet. We're going to go over it. remember, if you need to pause this video, either to find your sheet or to write something down, please just hit the pause button and then play it again. Okay, so character traits. So the character that you should be doing is Emmett. Okay, that should have been your character. Okay, you could have chose Grant, but let's go ahead and do Emmett first, and then kind of talk about why we chose Emmett. And if you think about it, Emmett is the major character. We've really been talking about major and minor characters. The major character is Emmett. The minor characters would be Grant and Scruffy. All right, so under character, go ahead and write Emmett. E-M-M-E-T-T. So just like this, under the character part, you should have the word Emmett. Now, a character trait is how the character is feeling. What is significant about that character? Well, when we think back of Emmett, there's really only one word that should come to your mind. Did you come up with the word scared? Or maybe worried? Okay, we can write both of those words down for Emmett, scared and worried. Okay, so under the character trait, write scared and worried. Again, if you need more time to write this down, just hit the pause button. Now, it says evidence from the text. That means find in the book how you know Emmett was scared. Okay, so let's look through this. Go to page 8. On page 8, it says, Emmett squeezed his eyes shut. He covered his ears. That tells you he's scared. If you're squeezing your eyes shut and covering your ears, you're scared. So under evidence from the text, I'm going to write page 8. Emmett squeezed his eyes shut and covered his ears. Again, that is showing us or telling us how Emmett was scared or worried. This is an example of it. Squeezing your eyes shut means that you are worried. All right, again, if you need to pause it, you may pause it. Another thing, how else did Emmett show us that he was worried or scared? What else did he do that made you think he was scared? We'll go to page 12. On page 12, once Emmett got his lucky hat, it says he pulled his hat down over his eyes. That's another way that he shows us that he's scared. So I'm going to write page 12, pulled his hat down over his eyes. Pulled his hat down over his eyes. If you pull your hat down, if you're wearing a hat and you pull it down over your eyes, that means you don't want to see something, okay? That tells us that he's scared. Also, if you look right on page 13, what is Emmett doing in this? Well, there was a loud noise and he screamed. Okay, again, if there's a loud noise and you scream, guess what? He's scared. He's scared. Okay. Go ahead to page 14. Page 14. Down here in the, where was it at? About the second paragraph down, it says, Emmett didn't care what happened to the kids. He was so happy the movie was over. If you are happy the movie is over, that means that you did not want to watch the movie, that he was scared, that he's scared. So let's go ahead and write page 14. Emmett was happy The movie was over. Again, if you need more time, hit the pause button, write this down, and then hit the play again. Okay, because you probably don't have enough time to write it by the time I get down. Okay, so you should have your character traits filled out and the book read.